And we're live. What's up, guys? Four Corners back with episode 101 with the four-man group today. I am one of your hosts, Ray. You can find me online at Rayvone Hackshaw. As always, joined by Peter, Bucket since 88. How you been?
Doing well. Finally wore pants and sweaters this week. First week in New Orleans. Finally getting cooler.
Nice. Nice. It is the season. Someone who's probably been feeling the cooler weather probably a little bit sooner. Big Dole. What's going on? How you been?
It's been going good. Been real busy in life lately, but it's been good. I like being busy. Nuggets are back. It makes me even busier. So happy to be here. Happy that it's seasons are changing, but not as happy for it to be cold. So
Yeah, I understand where you're coming from, especially. I mean, we might get into it a little bit, but I hate daylight savings. I don't know how you guys feel about it, but yeah. We also have Duce. I'm curious how you feel about this. Chill Ducey online. How you been?
I'm good, man. Thank you for having me. Big Dole and I are on opposite tips of the USA, so for me, it's finally dipping below 80 degrees, and I'm loving it. Got to golf yesterday in a nice 75 and sunny. So I'm good, man. Doing well.
That's great to hear. And then you can find Deuce at Chill Ducey and Dole at Revenge_Jokic. I believe Jokic is delicious revenge with a delicious honey bunches of oats PFP. Big fan of that one. Are you a honey bunches of oats guy, Dole?
I am actually. I love honey bunches of oats. I like the honey nut Cheerios. There's the other kind of Cheerios that they have where it's like oats and honey nut Cheerios combined. So I'll eat them all, man. I'm a cereal guy, 100%.
I'm a big combo guy as well. I don't actually eat cereal as often as I used to, but I don't know how you guys feel about this. Cinnamon Toast Crunch and honey bunches of oats together.
Sounds wild.
I guess I'm a wild guy, I guess. But yeah,
I love cereal, but I'm more of a granola guy now.
that's fair. I think the 2020s is like a granola era.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of. We all realized, like, oh, milk?
I mean, cereal's almost a little too much effort for me, dude. I'm a yogurt.
What? Too much.
I mean,
Man,
that
you
was-
ain't serving brunch anytime soon then.
That was tongue in cheek, but yeah, let's say my skills in the kitchen aren't strong.
that's okay. I think it's a similar amount of effort. I think it's respectable. You know, you get a little yogurt, get some fruit maybe in the mix. You know, it's fine.
Deuce is like, you guys want waffles, and then gives you Eggo waffles.
Yeah, and I mean, what a wonderful dish to serve. Let's get any better than that.
Yes, the benefits of modern technology. So, first of all, I make really good pancakes. I make scratch pancakes. It's like an old grandma recipe type thing. That's what I do. That's my life.
Ooh. My pancakes are better. We're gonna have to have a cook-off.
Them's fighting words, sir. But yeah, we should talk about basketball. So, this week, 4 games for Denver. The second of their back-to-backs. The first of their in-season tournament games versus the Dallas Mavericks. But let's start off with Utah and the Jazz in what was Denver's fourth win of the season, going into this one. I think this is going to be emblematic of a good number of Nuggets games this year. Logan, I'm kind of curious how you feel about this one, but I feel like it was boring, but in a comfortable and healthy way.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of their games so far have been. I feel like a lot of their games so far this year they've found ways to win in different. I guess they found ways to win in different ways, but they're all kind of repetitive of what we've seen now over the course of the last 2 or 3 years. I think that Jokic will just figure a team out in the second half, and they'll just blunder them. And I think the bench has been struggling. That's been another story we've had over the past couple of years. And then the defense something a little bit different. But it seemed that last year the defense started off pretty hot last year. Excuse me, it started off bad last year. Then it got pretty hot, but they picked up where they left off, which is actually a little bit surprising. So I think where they're at right now is a little bit different than what I expected. I thought them to maybe start a little bit hungover to the year, but they've just come out hot, and hopefully this isn't their best basketball they'll play all year, but it's good to see them come out hot right away to get us to establish a little bit of a lead.
Yeah, Peter, about that. I mean, about the defense in particular, just based on how they've played so far this year, what is your sense of, I feel like they kind of lagged a lot down the stretch, or not even down the stretch, I should say, but especially through the middle of last regular season. Of what you have seen so far, what do you expect in terms of just the maintenance of that kind of effort and intensity that we're seeing so far in going into the future?
Yeah, I would say it seems like they, by winning the championship, have gained the confidence and like requisite level of understanding how much effort they need to give. Because if you guys remember that Suns team a couple years ago with Chris Paul that won like 60 games, it felt like they were just coming out to like wreck everybody every night. This Nuggets team doesn't really have that attitude, but they kind of have the attitude of like, we can just coast for 3 quarters and then turn on the defense when we need it. We've never really seen that from a Nuggets team before. It's pretty much always been like we've had a good offense and a mediocre or bad defense. So it's really cool to know that like the chemistry is so good now and everybody knows their role and they're just, they can lock in when they need to. Hopefully it doesn't form any bad habits, but Malone hasn't, had any like huge mental breakdowns or complaints yet. So I think he's okay with where things are.
Yeah, I think that's. I mean, winning almost all your games is pretty solid in general. So I understand where you're coming from with that. Duce, how about you? What have your, maybe it's only been 2 weeks, but how are you feeling so far in terms of just how the Denver Nuggets have met your expectations, offensively, defensively, the bench, etc.?
Yeah. I mean, it's funny because this was probably the first time I wasn't dying for a Nuggets season to start. I was like, I'm kind of comfortable being world champs and, living in the existence of this summer, So this was maybe the first season where I was kind of like, I don't know if I'm ready for basketball to be here. But now watching them and just seeing how dominant they are, I'm like, oh yeah, this is going to be fun. Because typically Nuggets basketball comes with a little more anxiety for me, but right now the team is just, they're so good, and reaching the mountaintop takes some of those feelings of fear away of failure. As far as the team, I mean, you look at the standings right now. Every summer continuity just gets underrated on an analysis league wide, and you look at Celtics first in the East, Denver Nuggets first in the West. It's continuity is huge for the Nuggets, and seeing it play out is the offense just knows exactly what they're doing. They're so good. You compare them to the Suns, watching the Suns, it's that's a team where they don't know what shot they're going to get. Nuggets, it's they're going to get a good shot every time. It's fun to watch.
Hey,
Yeah.
Do you guys feel the same way? You guys weren't as excited for the Nuggets season to start? Because I kind of agree with Duce. I wasn't really extremely looking forward to it. I was just happy we were world champs. I still felt satisfied with the season and everything.
That's such an interesting question. Because I always want more Nuggets basketball, but at the same time, the idea of living in this perpetual state of having won a championship is very attractive to me. So if that summer could have lasted forever, I wouldn't have minded. But once we actually started playing the games, and I could actually start seeing oh, this is fun. Especially for me, it was the Memphis game where I was like, oh, good basketball. I think I'm back. I'm back in. I'm playing more games. I'm done, I think, celebrating for now. I'm always going to be able to come back, but I think I'm ready to see them do more and find out what more they can accomplish.
Just adding on to that real quick, I would think that last season compared to this season, we were waiting on Jamal and Porter and, whoever else to like start playing again. So I think the level of excitement last year was so much higher versus this year. So I think that is definitely can be said. This year we're looking forward to watching, Peyton Watson, Christian Brown in year two, maybe Mike to make his ascension, which he's been playing great recently, and I love to see that. But yeah, I just don't think the hype was as much, just especially after Jamal Murray's injury and him finally coming back. So I think that was a lot more satisfying last year.
I'm kind of with you, Dole. I wasn't like on a 10 out of 10. I was still excited, but I guess where I'm at is I'm always like, oh, I don't care as much as I think I do. But had the Nuggets gotten off to a slow start, I would have, while I would have kept things in perspective, I would have for sure gotten mad at everybody online being like, oh, the championship was a fluke. Nuggets aren't that good. So I'm kind of glad that they have gotten off to a good start and everybody's been quiet or like saying, wow, this team's really good, because we all know how good they are. But, I definitely think a lot of people did expect the championship hangover.
Yeah, I got to say, like, going into the season, like I said, it was a little bit like, I don't know if I'm ready for this to start, but like we haven't lived through a 60-win season. Like these Nuggets have always been a good to very good regular season team. They've never been a great regular season team, and we might be seeing a great regular season team. And like Peter said, like they don't even have to work that hard to do it.
And it doesn't seem like they have, honestly. At least not all the time. I mean, to kind of get into it, I mean, the Nuggets, they have lost a game. It was against the... I know, it's painful. Against the Minnesota Timberwolves, and I feel like it's one of the more interesting games so far this season, just in the sense of I had to see them lose before I would be able to imagine what it looks like them losing. And I feel like there may be... I think there's two ingredients so far as far what makes up a Nuggets loss. It's a team that brings, Denver brings so much cumulative length to the floor at any given time. When you layer that on top of Denver not being able to always give out the maximum effort, I think that's kind of what ends up kind of biting them in the end. But yeah, Peter, what were your thoughts after the Nuggets' first loss of the season?
I mean, what's really interesting to me about the Timberwolves is I know there's not a lot of people that believe in them. I think some people are like, being edgy and saying, "Oh, we think the Timberwolves this is the year they're going to be really good." The one thing they do really well, though, is they're one of the few teams in the league that don't get bullied by the Nuggets. Right? We've talked about how big the Nuggets are. That's one area where the advantage there goes away. So when they're guarding Jokic with Cat, Jokic still gets his numbers, but then they can have Rudy roaming, which really kind of shuts down the Nuggets being able to score in the paint, because the Nuggets are always one of the best teams in the NBA at getting easy baskets. So it's not that they can't beat the Wolves, but they have to have a good shooting night. They had a bad shooting night and they had a lot of turnovers. When you factor those things in, it's not really surprising that they kind of got smoked in that game. I'm not going to go as far as to say I'd pick the Wolves to beat the Nuggets in a series yet, but they definitely do pose some threats that concern me. And they just make the margin of error to beat that team a lot smaller because, as we saw in plenty of other series, most of the time Aaron Gordon can just have a mismatch and like dunk it over some small guy. He can't do that against the Wolves. So the Nuggets really have to play their A game to beat the Wolves, honestly.
Yeah, I'm high on the Wolves, dude. Before the season, I said I could see them winning 50 wins. I mean, they have a lot of talent. Obviously, we didn't see McDaniels in the playoffs. We didn't see Naz Reid in the playoffs. Those are two. Naz Reid might be the best bench big in the NBA. He's up there. Obviously, they have two pretty good starting bigs, so he'd probably be starting most places. But I think they have a really good team. I mean, I think with McDaniels, they're a tough matchup for the Nuggets. And I mean, I think Anthony Edwards in the playoffs last year, his first time going through it, I thought, his inexperience made things easier on the Nuggets, even though he's an insane talent. So, I mean, he's going to keep getting better. They have a solid team. I mean, and like end of the day, Rudy Gobert is underrated. Like how much talks about him. It's like the Nuggets game on Wednesday or whatever night that was, the first 3 possessions were pretty much like passed up layups for the Nuggets. Like they start off on, essentially Rudy Gobert controlling their offense. So he can do that. So yeah, I think that would be a tough, interesting playoff matchup, assuming Anthony Edwards continues to get better. I don't think he was good enough last year to really push the Nuggets.
Yeah, one of the things I think is something I'm going to be thinking about going forward is definitely Denver's ability to really like embrace contact and draw fouls and that sort of thing, because I think you're right. In that game, one of the things I just felt and was concerned about is like, yeah, they're just giving up a lot of these different getting into the lane, getting those opportunities, and then passing up what would otherwise be good looks. So I don't know how they adjust and change how they play to fix that, but it's definitely something I'm going to be keeping an eye on.
Cat will always spaz, though. I mean, Cat's never put together a solid, meaningful playoff series, so maybe that'll happen, but I kind of doubt it.
I agree, but I would also say I think he hasn't played a lot with that group. It is the other thing I would think about. Where this year I think he's been pretty durable throughout his career. So I'm wondering, with more games under his belt, will he be able to work better with Rudy, work better with Anthony Edwards, and kind of just develop more chemistry? Like I think when Denver had Mason Plumlee and Jokic, that also kind of took a second season to really click in and kind of make it make sense for how they should operate on the floor. But yeah, Dole, did you have any thoughts about that Jazz game, about that Wolves game? I should say. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think you guys nailed a lot of it, but I'm just going to speak straight from like watching the game. Like it was just the Nuggets didn't shoot very well. I think that I've seen enough Timberwolves games to know that their clutch time offense is absolutely atrocious, and it's just Ant taking 29 footers ISO, and he's trying to switch on to guys, but he's like switching on to guys who he shouldn't switch on to, like Aaron Gordon. It's just like, what are you doing, Ant? So I mean, until I see that change, I'm just gonna go with the typical Minnesota sports fan take, and I'm just gonna say, I mean, they'll push the Nuggets definitely, but I mean, they're not going to beat them. I mean, this was the one-off where the Nuggets just shot absolutely atrocious, and they got the best of them. And good for them, It actually is good for them because it's good for the whole fan base and the community up here to get more into basketball. When they beat the world champions like that, I know there was a lot of hype. I got a lot of texts from my friends, from my Wolves fans up here in North Dakota. So it was nice to see that. But like I said, like I'm not moved. I'm not fazed by it. The Wolves are still the Wolves. They'll be at best a 4 or 3 seed, and they'll probably win one series at best.
Okay.
I got one question for you. I know it was one game, but Jaden McDaniels being back was definitely a big difference. I thought that Jamal Murray really struggled in that game. He was taking a lot of tough shots. Now that he plays like that a lot, and we've known Jamal can hit a lot of tough shots. My question is, do you think he's going to figure him out, or do you think that's going to be kind of like a matchup where that might be a tough series for Jamal if we did play the Timberwolves?
Yeah, I mean, what's going to happen is Jamal is either going to figure him out or he's just going to have to find a way to switch off him. That's what I think. They have a lot of guys who Jamal can cook. I think Jamal can cook Anthony Edwards. I think Jamal can also cook like Kyle Anderson. I think he can definitely cook Rudy Gobert. So we saw that. So, I mean, obviously they're not going to pull out all the tricks game one, especially in Minnesota. So I'm not, like I said, Jaden McDaniels, the length, that's real. He's probably a top 5 defender in the NBA right now, and he is ridiculous. And if he can learn to score, he is going to be probably one of the best two-way bigs or the best two-way forwards in the league easily. So, but like I said, I'm not worried about just one player. I'm not worried about one player. So,
If I could follow up on that just a little bit, what do you feel like the Wolves need to make that next step?
They definitely need another scorer. They don't really have a lot of scorers on their team right now. I don't trust Towns. He's way too inconsistent. Anthony Edwards, I think he's obviously their number one go-to guy. Mike Connolly is a good piece to have, but I feel like the Towns, they need to move him and they need to get someone else who's going to be able to score for him. And specifically, I like how they have their system built right now, where they do have that Jokic stopper, where they bring that, they put Towns on him, or they put Rudy on him, and then they bring the double over because that's a lot of length and a lot of size. And then of course you have Jaden McDaniels too, and he can also honestly get onto Jokic and play him tough too if they really needed to. So I mean they've got options on that sense, but I don't. Like I said, I think that the Wolves are looking for someone that can either score on the bench or can score in the second unit with a starter that can score who could score with the second unit. Like I said, Towns just he's not that guy. He's going to get hurt. He's not consistent enough. He's such a head case. So I just don't think that's the case with Towns.
Okay. Well,
a lot of hot takes
agree.
coming right now.
Completely agree with you.
Love it.
I really do.
I'm interested to see where he goes if he does end up being moved. A lot of the time, I think lots of teams are looking for that. Oh, some star is going to be disgruntled and available, and then we're going to go and pounce. A lot of the time, I feel like people are looking for that like lead guard or that lead perimeter player. So it'll be interesting who is interested in a center like Karl Anthony Towns and looking to like build around him.
Can I say one more thing about Towns before we move on? You know, it's a fascinating point you make, though, about how he's just like not. He like shrinks in the moment, right? He's not really that mature. Do you guys remember a few years ago when Jokic was having all the problems like with the refs and just kind of like keeping his cool, but he kind of figured that out as time went on? It's weird watching Towns because he is so talented. I do think he cares, but he just hasn't quite figured out that last piece of like how to stay on an even keel and like, you know, like playing basketball growing up. One of the most important things I learned was that the most important play is the next play, right? You screw up, you got to forget about it and move on. Towns is not good at that. Like even as an NBA player who's an all-star, he like gets in his own head after one play, you know. This is like the thing we've complained about Yusuf Nurkic, you know, for in the years past about how he's just like mentally soft. And yeah, it's weird how Towns just hasn't completely figured it out yet because it seems like he should be way better.
Completely agree. And I mean, that's what separates Jokic. It's the mental, dude. I mean, I just don't think Karl Anthony Towns just doesn't have it at a high level. Doesn't mean he can't get it, but yeah, no. Not right now.
He's also a player. I want to give him some space to be frustrated, only because I think he's been in a more frustrating situation than I think a lot of star players of his caliber would be in. Just the sense of, I mean, not really having the talent around him to compete until they do, and all of a sudden he seems like he's on the outs. So I could understand how, you know,
Ray,
he's in a tough spot.
You're being really nice.
I'm trying. I'm trying so hard.
I'm not like Cat hasn't signed his extension yet, but like if I'm a team, I'm not trying to pay Karl Anthony Towns a $200 million contract. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens. I mean, I think Minnesota's probably going to pay him that, but just because, you know, you don't want to, you know, lose a talent like that for nothing. But I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot of money to pay for a stretch four that doesn't defend.
Yeah, I think he was useful in this game. Like having that double big lineup is helpful for the Nuggets. I don't know if it makes them on their own very good. But yeah, Tim Connolly also being the guy.
Big of all time.
It's laughable, just laughable.
That's a very low bar.
It's just that's classic Cat that he's dead ass. I mean, it's
bar.
incredible.
Is it the high? Man. Is top 10 shooting big of all time a high bar?
I mean,
it's
I
like
can give it a lot, but it's just like you're not a better shooter than Dirk when we're talking about meaningful shooting. I mean, but top 10 for sure. That's fine.
It's kind of like when someone says, like,
maybe even
give us
top five.
one good playoff series. One.
Yeah, exactly.
Give us
Dude, it's
one
like,
good
okay.
playoff series.
We don't want to talk about Cat anymore, but it's like, yo, that Memphis series 2 years ago was maybe the most insane. Like, Minnesota was so clearly the better team. I've never seen a team lose an NBA playoff series like that, and it was just because Cat was like just insanely bad, just to levels I've never seen. That's it. Okay, let's. So funny.
Trust me, this is exactly what Wolves fans say too. I swear to God. They will just sit here and bash Cat until the day they die. It is incredible how much pain and misery he's caused.
Jimmy
this
Butler
fan
was
base.
right.
Yes, he was.
Yeah,
100%.
Sure. Right,
that's funny.
Let's talk that Dallas one.
Yeah, Dallas. So do we want to talk about the game or do we want to talk about the court?
Do you guys have 3D glasses?
I do not.
I did.
Oh, you did? How was that? How was that experience?
Really popped.
So what did it do? I don't. What popped on the court? Like
I'm joking. I wasn't wearing actual 3D glasses, but it felt like I was watching like an out of body experience. Like it felt like I was watching like the Boise State Broncos play football, kind of in a sense. Like it was just so bright and like the court was very interesting. I'll say that. And not that I didn't hate it, but I didn't really like it also.
I have things to say, but anybody else want to chime in before?
I mean, it was. I mean, I knew it was going to be bad when I saw it, but then like it was actually worse for sure as far as like the viewing experience. I mean, it's the wrong shade of blue. It's like not even Nuggets blue. It's kind of like light. It's like Warriors blue. One thing I will say is like I feel like for whatever reason these city jerseys have gotten a lot of flack. I mean, to me, it's just like kind of indicative that like the city jersey thing is like really like kind of like not cool and like weird to like pump out a new jersey with no meaning each year. But as far as the actual jersey, I'm like, I don't think it's egregiously worse than like a couple of the other city jerseys. But I think a handful of the city jerseys have been terrible. So seems like people are saying.
You might find this take kind of boring, but like my thing is I really don't care that much. I care about the Nuggets winning basketball games. So if they're wearing like a practice jersey, that's great. If they win, I'm happy. You know, I personally think the Charlotte Hornets have the best color scheme in the NBA. They just look so beautiful every time they take the court. But that team's been god awful for years. And if I'm a Hornets fan, I'm probably pissed that my team always stinks. I don't care that we have cool colors. So did I love the court and the jerseys? No. But I was fine with it because we whooped Luka in the Mavs, so I was happy.
That's fair. I just want to say, you can't have all three primary colors. Okay, it's just wrong from like a color wheel perspective. I think it's always going to look gross, and
not a fan of the red, white, and blue.
You not all together all at the same time. It doesn't look. I don't want to. I understand it's more Colorado, right? It's on the flag. The royal blue is closer to what is on the flag, and the red and the gold and the white and the black. I get it. At the same time, black on dark blue, not a great look. Okay, not a fashion choice you should be making if you're ever wondering. No, don't go out and wear a navy suit with like black shoes or whatever. It's weird. I also feel like it doesn't work well for people of color. I'm not gonna lie. If there's contrast, like I think it kind of like it makes more sense. I just didn't love any of it. Honestly, it made me uncomfortable. It was weird. I would like to see
Reggie
them.
Jackson was getting lost on your screen a little there.
Oh, a little. I mean, I don't want to single anybody out, but it's just the general identifying each individual player as their respective selves. It makes everyone look more similar. So yeah, not a fan. And as far as like the city jerseys, I just think it's not wrong to have a city jersey. Just change it less often. You know, find what you like and pick that.
Yeah, I would say like at the end of the day, don't care too much about the city jersey. I think they should update I would like to see them update their two main jerseys maybe, or bring a sky. I mean, we have a great history of jerseys, so I do think our two main are a little bland. It would be nice to like have a little more there, but end of the day, we beat the Mavs. We looked great doing it, so I'm with you, Peter. I'm fine with that.
You're saying you want to talk about the actual game? I guess we could do that.
But
You know, Dallas
So,
came in
yeah.
4-0.
Dallas did
For first
come.
place in the West.
Indeed. So, I mean, I guess starting with Luca, I thought Luca had a solid game, just not a super relevant one. Like, I like how he looks. I like skinny Luca. Like I'm happy for him that he's seems to be more focused on that. But this felt like, especially coming off of the game that they lost, it's almost the reverse. Back to the old script that this was a competitive game somewhat, in the sense that both teams are scoring, but at the end of the day, one team is up 10 pretty much the entire game. And I think it's pretty comfortable, especially in a lot of the ways that Dallas isn't able to challenge Denver on the inside in the same way that Minnesota was able to. Kyrie is good, though. Say what you will about his personality. Peter, see you shaking your head. Do you have any-
Kyrie is
Go
one of my
ahead.
favorite players. Yeah, Kyrie is one of my favorite players to ever watch play basketball. But obviously, I wouldn't want him on my team per se. But yeah, I felt like that was just a classic dominant, great Nuggets performance. And we're in a zone with the crazy thing is the bench. It's just better than we could have expected. Typically, we would see games like this where the bench is going to give up the lead, and obviously, I don't know what their plus minus was in this game per se, but it's like we've just had much better bench this year so far than I expected, where they're playing closer to even than kind of what I was expecting, which was bleeding points. So that's pretty exciting.
Yeah, I agree. It was nice to get back to the comfortable wins. Peter, do you have any thoughts about the game?
Yeah, I thought that what's interesting about Luca is obviously he's super talented, but I've seen so many basketball games where teams are freaking out and completely selling out to stop Luca. Whether that's bringing help or going zone or whatever they're doing, and he had a good game, but he wasn't super efficient. I think the Nuggets did a good job of just playing him straight up, and not having super bad breakdowns of like he blew past this guy, now we got to help, and then somebody's wide open for a corner three, because that's how he's killed us in the past. So I kind of felt like, I don't know if this was necessarily a strategy, but it kind of seemed like the Nuggets were like, it's fine if Luka gets his. When they miss, we'll get out and run, and we're just going to score on them almost every time because they're just not very big. So I thought the Nuggets did an excellent job in transition, and it's like they never just seemed worried, because every time the Mavs scored, it was kind of just like, okay, well, we'll get the ball out and get a good shot now. So until Dallas ever figures out an answer for Jokic, which I know is like an impossible ask, it just doesn't matter. So yeah, Dallas is not a team I'm worried about unless they add some more pieces.
Logan, how about you? Any thoughts about the Mavericks and their game?
Yeah, I love Michael Porter. I love him so much. He's
It's a good point.
He's honestly, besides Jamal, he's probably my second favorite player on the team. I mean, obviously, I love Jokic. I've seen him do it forever, but I mean, I like to cheer for the forwards and guards, because that's kind of how I guess depict myself when I play basketball. So I don't really know much about being a center. So, but I love Mike's game. I love his confidence. He shot absolutely fantastic. He has been doing more this year than what we've seen in the past, which is come to truth, where we have seen him work on this game over the summer, and he has started to expand a little bit. Obviously, it didn't pay off right away at the beginning of the year, but coming off an injury, just trying to get his footing back and his footwork back, and I think we're starting to see that now. He's came alive the last two games now, and I'm really excited to see what he's going to do Monday. So hopefully he gets his points per game up to 20 points per game this year. That would be absolutely electric. Because I think that he is going to be a very big key of us going back to back this year.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree more. I've been really happy with him and his efforts to really obviously he's an elite shooter, and he's always been that. Came into the league in that way, but yeah, his willingness to kind of expand beyond that, to drive towards the basket, to draw fouls, create for others, I've been really happy with.
Just like talking about his defense a little bit too. I think I saw a stat where I think Luka was trying to hunt him, and I think Luka was like 2 for 6 shooting on him with like 5 turnovers. I'm not sure if that's actually correct, but if that is correct, I mean, my goodness, he's come a long ways over these years from being hunted to now being an absolute problem with absolute length. To be that is so tough to get around and so tough to shoot over. So good for Mike. I know for sure he created a couple turnovers, but if it was 5 just alone on Luka, that is awesome. So good for him.
Yeah,
And
he
got
definitely
the
doesn't
DPOG
make it.
chain.
He did.
He broke
He did get
KCP's
the yeah.
streak.
Hell yes.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure you guys saw Matt Brooks posted like a video of MPJ defending Luka in his 2.5 minutes. So yeah, I mean, I think MPJ's all 3 starting role players are very underrated league wide, but like MPJ, due to his poor shooting in the finals, I feel like he hasn't gotten enough love from the national media and like reviewing the title. And so I think people need to come to terms with the fact that he's like a really good all around player, and hopefully people realize that this year.
Yeah, I think it'd be good to see for him, especially like just challenging shots. You know, it's just this idea that like, oh, you switched off of KCP, and you think you have a weakness, and you think you have somewhere to attack, and to have his like length, and I think also even in passing lanes, I think he's improved a lot as a backside sort of defender who's not just going to let things just go by his head in the way that he used to. So I've been pretty happy with the way he's played, and I'm just really encouraged by, like, again, especially in some of the non-Jokic minutes, but even with the Jokic minutes as well, he is making an effort to, I think, just create better looks for himself than he was last year, where he was just like, hey, I have the ball, I'm going to shoot it. And if I get challenged, I'm going to make a step back. Where I feel like he's just attacking a little bit more, putting the ball on the floor a little bit more. So I think it says a lot in terms of his prospects of being a guy who can just elevate his floor as a player, because that's going to be something that lets you draw contact, create contact, embrace that contact, and ultimately generate the fouls that I think really are necessary for anyone who wants to be a star of a certain level. And I think that's kind of how he gets to that 20 point mark. So happy for Mike. Good to win a playing game. Peter, did you feel like the intensity was different than any like regular season game you felt before?
I feel like it was a little bit higher. I didn't feel like it was quite playoff level. So that's still a good thing, right? I do feel like both teams really wanted to win the game. But I didn't feel like Dallas was like treating it like a game 7 or anything. And I think it's exciting. It's exciting for the fans, you know, and I want to give a shout out to just Nuggets fans in general. I mean, I think that Nuggets fans over the years have gotten a pretty bad reputation, but I think, you know, since the bubble, the Nuggets fans have really stepped it up. I think Ball Arena is the loudest I can ever remember it being. So I think a lot of, you know, Nuggets fans have obviously probably just joined recently, but Denver's always been a pretty good sports town, you know, when their teams are good. I think maybe in the past, you know, if I'm thinking about like 2013 and stuff, maybe they just didn't quite believe in the Nuggets. But last year, you know, Jokic is 2-time MVP. They know they've got a chance. Then they win it. I think Nuggets fans are fully on board now. So it's like they're ready to go from the first quarter, and they're loud and they're chanting defense and, you know, the "Who's Your Daddy" chant against the Lakers. I mean, it's beautiful to see, because I think sometimes what happens is when a team has an identity for so many decades, that's just kind of like who they are. And what's great about this era is they've changed the narrative, right? So I think fan bases narratives can change too, you know, because I think what was it, Gary Harris's first year, Nuggets were like last in the league in attendance. So Now I looked it up. Last year they were 9th. This year they're up to 5th right now. So Nuggets fans have stepped up too.
Yeah, I would definitely say that's true.
I love that point, Peter. Well said.
Yeah, I'm happy. Shout out to you guys.
Let me add real quick. I mean, the cool thing about the playing game, like Jamal Murray played 39 minutes on Friday, which obviously maybe he shouldn't have played last night. But yeah, the coaching staff and the players were, very, like the minutes show you that they wanted to win the game, which is cool. I mean, so no complaints from me, dude. I mean, it was a really good basketball game, and clearly the team put an emphasis on it above other regular season games, which we weren't necessarily sure that would happen. So that's cool.
I also feel like it's just kind of a marquee matchup a little bit. Like Jokic, Doncic, I think it's not that they're going at each other, but I think it's one of those situations where I just continue to expect every team to want to give Denver their best. And when we talk about some of the best players in the league, I think doubly so for the ones that are looking to prove themselves and looking to establish themselves as one of those teams that should be expected to be great. So I've been pretty happy with that.
Yeah, I mean, the Mavs, they've given us trouble over the years. I mean, I feel like we typically split the season series with them. They usually get us once or twice. I think they might have beat us at home last year. So yeah, I mean, obviously, I think their roster all around has some pretty key weaknesses. I don't know if they're better than they've been in the past couple of years at this point, but love that win. Great win.
Dwight Powell looks very strong until he's next to Nikola Jokic. I was really impressed with. I'm like, oh, he's a little big this year. Yeah, and then you zoom out. But yeah,
it still doesn't make.
All right, go ahead, Peter.
It still doesn't make sense to me how easily Jokic goes through Anthony Davis. Like Anthony Davis is massive, and he doesn't see him. It still doesn't make sense to me.
I have some thoughts.
Because Jokic is him.
I also
He's
think
ridiculous,
AD,
man.
I also think we have to think about like Anthony Davis's history, and I think he's one of those guys who he grew up a lot smaller than he ultimately became. If that makes sense, he's one of those guys who had really late growth spurts, and I think for players
really
like
late.
that, yeah, I think I don't think people are just their bodies; people are also their mind, and I think he's a guy who's closer to being a guard in spirit, if that makes
guard
sense.
mentality. Okay.
Yeah. Just in how he approaches the game and how his body is. Where I feel like Yoke's been big his whole life. Like, even though he has done a lot of passing.
You know what's so crazy though, Ray? What's crazy about sports is sometimes a game requires you to be at your best in a certain area, and that might mean you don't go as hard in other areas. Like if you're your team's leading scorer, the old adage is like, okay, well, he's going to not guard the best player on the other team. I legitimately think LeBron James does a better job of guarding Nikola Jokic than Anthony Davis does. But obviously, it's not smart for the Lakers to put LeBron on Jokic the whole game. But Jokic has a harder time backing down LeBron than he does AD. It's wild to me, like how LeBron also has that massive amount of strength in his bag if he absolutely needs it. I'm not saying he stops him, but it's like he could have probably been an all-time great defender had he chosen to. I'm not saying he's bad, but it's like nobody thinks of that first when they think of LeBron.
Yeah, I think especially when you're talking about a guy who has to carry as much offensively as he had throughout his career, it's hard to earn that label, right? Especially, it's weird, guys who do earn that label almost get this handicap offensively and how people see them. Like I think about Giannis in that way, where people see him as this elite defensive player and as such are very critical of his lack of offensive production. But in reality, I mean, he's producing a lot of offense and he's still a number one option, better than most number one options in the league. So it's interesting.
He anymore? He might not be anymore.
Well, it's also
No, I'm sorry.
embarrassing. For
It's
AD.
hard to do what he
Like,
does.
No, point taken though. No,
Like he Jokic is killing AD so much in that playoff series. LeBron's like, all right, bro, I got him. Like that's bad.
I respect AD on the defensive end, but I think it's a little bit of like, I mean, Ray's point is good. I mean, to me, it's just like kind of comes and goes. I mean, like I've seen AD play at a level where I'm like, yeah, he is the best defensive player in the NBA, but then you don't see that all the time. And that's same with him on the offensive end. Like it's just like, yeah, sometimes he's great, sometimes he's not. The funny thing about both AD and Embiid as well, which is funny to me, is I feel like fitness is a huge issue with both of them, especially AD. I mean, AD to me, I mean, he's got a fat ass. Like he's looking pretty thick to me. He's just not the same athlete. If you watch him in New Orleans, people still view him like that. It's like when he was in New Orleans, he had a body like, he was skinny. Like he was pump fake driving by people. And he's just not that guy anymore. He's just not even close. So it's like people talking about, this is the year that AD is going to – it's like, no, he just doesn't have the body for it. He's not in shape to the level he does. And, I mean, he's getting older. So it's, it's understandable. But, God,
We're all getting older.
Talk about the Lakers. I loved that game. I mean –
I'm getting older. It's fine.
Yeah, I mean, me too, bro. Yeah. I get it.
Yeah, I get it too. Because when he came in the league, he looked like Wemby, or he looked like a ball. Like he looked like one of those guys. And now he's a little softer around the edges.
And not to like just he was amazing offensively. I mean, there was a game, I think it was the opening game of the season with Moody where he dropped 50 on us, and it was just like, yeah, this is like
I remember that.
Like this before.
He did cook us a lot in that era. Chicago, Chi-Town. So, second night of a back-to-back. I mean, get it out of the way now. Jamal, kind of a little hamstring tightness, comes out of the game. Otherwise, Denver really pulls this one out in the second half. I feel like the game was close. I think Chicago is in an interesting position because they, less than 10 games in, have had like team meetings and are considering like where are we going with our lives and these sorts of things. So I think they really wanted this one. They were motivated, but at the same time, it's just not as good as the Nuggets. I think it's just one of those situations. But Logan, I'll throw it to you. What were your thoughts? I'm just about this game in general. Anywhere where you want to go with it.
I kind of thought the Bulls would maybe make it a little bit closer, but it just was pretty good game at halftime, and then the Nuggets just came screaming out of the gates and kind of smoked them. It's kind of sucks to see Chicago just struggle like this. They've invested quite a bit of money into the two superstars, or two stars at least. Just haven't really found a way to put it together over the past couple of years, which is unfortunate. But just speaking on that, once again, Mike had another really great game. He's building off that, and it's really great to see. Sucks that Jamal got hurt, but it is what it is. So I think Jamal will be just fine in the long run. It's good to get him a little bit of rest, here and there. He's had a pretty big summer, and he's been around the facility all summer, and he's been doing Canada basketball stuff as well. So I think that I wasn't surprised that he had to take a little bit of time off, or his hamstring was a little tight. So it is what it is. Jokic also kind of played pretty well too. So good for him. And we got to see Colin Gillespie play a little bit. I love that. We got to see Julian play a little bit. I was at halftime. I think I had DM'd Ray, and I was just like, one of these bench players has got to step up here, because it looked like the starters were a little sluggish, but the starters kind of picked it up right out of half, and then the second unit came in and they kind of beat the wheels off of them continuously, and that was really nice to see. And like I said, Colin played great last night. I don't know what your guys' thoughts are on Colin.
I like how he played. I thought he played like a controlled game, was aggressive in the positions that he needed to be aggressive in. Peter, do you have any thoughts about, before I go into it, about Colin, or even about the point guard rotation behind Jamal in general?
I was a little surprised that Colin got the nod over Pickett, but I thought he did fine. I thought he he did what he needed to do. He didn't freak out and go, "Oh, I'm in an NBA game. I gotta like show, what I can do." He's smart enough. He's at least I think being around the team last year helped him realize like how good everybody is, and that he can just kind of go in, play his game, and just fit in, and like the team still had scored. So I was really proud of MPJ for being like, "Okay, Jamal's out. I gotta step up." That's what I was really waiting for, and it's just so crazy to watch a team that has chemistry like this because, he's not going to be an all-star this year, but I don't think it's like a homer take to say that Aaron Gordon's one of the best role players in the whole league. Like he shoots a high percentage, he plays good defense, and I believe he's averaging a career high in assists like since he's been in Denver. I looked it up earlier. It's like 3.5 a game now. That's pretty good. I mean, I think I even saw a few Twitter accounts saying like it's funny how Gordon has turned into Jokic. I mean, that's like a bit far, but there's no doubt that he thinks the game like much cleaner and better now and just views, he's like, let's get the best shot for the team. And he does still take a few, pull up threes here and there, but I really don't mind it because he never takes like more than one questionable one. It's really akin to like, here's my football analogy for the show, Ray. It's like a quarterback throwing a deep ball every once in a while. You might not always connect it, but you got to throw at least one or two a game just to keep the defense honest, right? So by Gordon taking those threes, he's showing you that he can shoot from there, and you have to respect it. Unlike Ben Simmons, who just would like never shoot that. And yet sometimes he hits them. He's not afraid. He hit a big three over LeBron opening night that I think pushed the lead back up to 6. So he's hit some clutch threes for us. But I wanted to talk about the Bulls real quick, where we started. It is a bummer, like Dole said. They have 3, really good players to me in Levine, DeRozan, and Vucevic. And for whatever reason, those guys just haven't been able to like get quite on the same page in terms of having great chemistry. Because I don't think their net rating when those 3 play together, it's like basically even, which it should not be. It should be a positive. And to me, I think they have too many shoot first players. There's not enough passing. There's a lot of your turn, my turn. And it's just so hard to win in the NBA like that, You can't just get the ball to one guy and get out the way and win games like that anymore these days.
Yeah, I think for Zach LaVine in particular, I feel like that's very like core to their challenges is that he's this guy who can definitely fill it up, definitely score with the best players in the league. But I imagine they were hoping he would make this kind of. There's a transition that I think guys like Jamal Murray are kind of making, and even Devin Booker are making to some extent, that they are coming into their own as guys who can. Maybe they're billed as combo guards, but they are still guards who can pass. Like they're not just scorers, and I think Zach is still. He feels more like a Bradley Beal than a Devin Booker, if that makes sense.
That's fair.
Yeah, I feel like Chicago is in a position where they need like a higher ceiling, just collectively, and I'm not sure where they go from here in terms of how to get that. Like where do they go to get that extra player, that afterburner for the Rocket to make it from, I don't know, top of the atmosphere to actual space?
Yeah, I mean, that's a horrid basketball team. Arturas Karnisovas left Denver and built the most hopeless team in the NBA. I mean, the Nuggets played horrible in the first half. Horrid. Probably the worst I've seen them play in a long time. And the Bulls were up 2. Or they're up 4. I mean, that's just a really bad basketball team. I would like to see Zach LaVine in a situation. I really like his game. I'd like to kind of see if he could be a winning player somewhere as a complementary piece. And then, I mean, Vucevic and DeRozan are just kind of on the downside of things. So, great to see in the second half the Nuggets come, because like that's an easy game to lose. I mean, you lose Jamal, you come out, you're on a back-to-back. You just kind of they kind of didn't have it. So I mean, that just speaks to how good the Nuggets are that they came out and crushed the Bulls. Because I really think the first half was like really bad basketball. I mean, it was kind of funny. We were there was like travels, some weird shots being taken, a lot of weird turnovers. It was a pretty funny watch. But yeah, I feel bad for the Bulls fans because they just deserve to watch a coherent vision, and it's rough up there. Free Alex Caruso because he's awesome. And yeah, I would love to see Zach LaVine. I would love to see what Zach LaVine could do, on like a good team, just to see if he is really good. Because I love his game. I think he plays a beautiful brand of basketball. But
You should trade him to the Suns.
intangibles with him are in question.
Yeah, I think him on the Suns would be fun. I think it'd be just like let's just triple down or quadruple down.
I mean, Levine, like I already heard, like Levine and Philly. I mean, I think end of the day playing with Embiid is very difficult. But yeah, Levine and Philly, Levine and Miami could be fun.
Those are.
I was about to say, I feel like Miami would be like an amazing situation for him, where he'd be the lead guard, but he would also have an excellent coach that would hold him accountable, and he'd have another player that can take the burden off, and kind of run the show. Because Jimmy Butler's been there. So, yeah, I think Zach, unfortunately, has just been in pretty tough situations his whole career. And he tries hard, but, yeah, he hasn't been able to, like, elevate his teammates' game. But maybe, not everybody can do that. I think that's a really underrated thing about the greatest players, right? Like, that's hard to do. Some guys just are like I don't think Kawhi makes his teammates better guys, but he's a two-time champion because he's been on excellent teams with excellent coaching and excellent players surrounding him. But that guy to me just goes out, does his thing, and plays hard. He doesn't you don't see Kawhi dominate the game with passing the way like Jokic or LeBron do. So I think Levine would be a good playoff performer, but yeah, he can't be the main guy.
This is a tangent off of what you said, but I was thinking about it. Like Jamal Murray, what he's done in Denver to like be a winning player. It's like we all talked about it this summer. Is he going to come out and try to be all NBA? Like he's never had a season where he's had big scoring numbers, and he's come out this year and essentially been like just playmaking at a very high level, like the most willing passer. So his commitment to just being a winning player for this Nuggets team and like unselfishness, it's just like, it's pretty special, dude. I was because with his big assist numbers this year, I've just been so impressed with him. I mean, he obviously, would love to see him scoring a little bit more, obviously, but it just speaks to his mindset where he's, like all this. It's easy to say the Nuggets are like this unselfish team, but it's real, so real,
big time,
and it's difficult. I don't think there are many players who sacrifice more than guys like Aaron Gordon, guys like Michael Porter, than the opportunities they could have somewhere else versus what they get in Denver. The delta there, I think, is pretty large. So
that's why it's nice they're paying them well.
Yeah, it always makes it go down a little bit smoother.
But Ray, does that ever bother you when people start saying like, "Oh, I'd take Kuzma over MPJ"? It's like, what?
Well,
I don't understand.
I've been defending MPJ against the haters since day one. Let's be honest. Are
there any haters in the house? I don't know any.
I mean, I knew some people who wanted to trade him for Ben Simmons, or trade him for this guy, or trade him for that guy.
I was kind of an MPJ hater, so.
I
was an MPJ skeptic. I was an MPJ.
Well, hey, look, I'm not the type of person who's going to blame people for being wrong. Everyone's allowed to change their mind, and we can all join in and be on the winning side, which is that Michael Porter Jr. is good.
I would relitigate everything I said. I mean,
Speaking of skeptics, Ray, 7 games in, where are you at on Reggie Jackson?
So 4 games. Okay, so here's the thing. I'm interested to see I don't want to pull an Adam Morris, but sample size is where I'm at right now. So far, he's played well in these early games, and he shot well in most of them. And so I think that's good. The thing I've been thinking about, and I guess the concern that I have is not even like him on his own. If he's playing well, the times he's playing with Jamal, I still don't get. Like I don't totally
Fair.
feel. It's not even that either of them are playing badly. I feel like when they play together, Jamal just ends up being a decoy mostly,
Yeah.
and that I don't really see the added value with Jamal on the court, if especially if Reggie is playing well, because he is providing a lot of the things that otherwise Jamal would be providing. And if you just needed a decoy, well, you could play Julian Strother or some other. I understand wanting shooters, right? Because you think about who the rest of that bench is. Peyton Watson's kind of questionable as a shooter. Zeke is questionable as a shooter. Christian Brown is questionable as a shooter. So I understand wanting two guys who are definitely like, hey, we can knock down these threes. I just don't know if Reggie and Jamal need to be out there together. It still doesn't click for me.
I think
That's
that's
all.
valid as far as because I don't think the results have been very good with Jamal. To me, what I would think the reasoning would be like, hey, we need Jamal to help float the bench and play minutes, but like being the lead ball handler is tiring. So it's kind of a way to like let Jamal get those minutes while also kind of preserving him. But like I do kind of agree with you, Jamal. It's you gotta find a way to like keep him involved and keep him as a scorer on that unit if you're gonna have him off ball, which I don't think has really happened. And I think Reggie is not great at like getting the team into offense. I think he's a pretty good scorer, and I think like it's probably just going to be like either a good or bad game for him. I don't think he's that reliable to like get the team into good offense, which would be nice as a point guard. But.
Would be nice. I bet
Great.
like, is he a point guard? But
Can I give you my theory?
Sure.
So, I think it's a fair point that you're making. It's like you'd rather see a shooter like Strother or just more size, whether it's Strother or Christian Brown maybe playing next to Reggie. My theory is, Deuce brought up a great point about letting Jamal kind of rest off the ball. I think it has to do with the fact that when Jokic is out of the game, he's the best passer on the team, right? So with him
Jamal,
and
you mean?
Jamal, no, Jokic is the best passer. So the starting unit makes perfect sense. When Reggie comes in the game, he can play with Jokic just fine. If you can't play with Jokic, like, you shouldn't be in the NBA.
You probably can't play.
Yeah, when Jokic goes to the bench, I don't think they want Zeke with Watson and I'm blanking who's the other backup, and Brown. with just Jackson and then like one other guy that can't handle the ball. I don't think Malone wants just one ball handler. I think the idea is Reggie with Jamal is another good passer, and it gets us flowing into offense. Where we've seen it be an issue is, yeah, it makes you smaller defensively, but those units have been okay so far. So I'm confident that Reggie and Jamal can still kind of like get a better chemistry, but I'm okay with it mostly because it hasn't been a disaster. Maybe in the playoffs, if those units bleed points, maybe they'll do something different. They'll probably stagger more. But I understand your concern, but that's just my theory on. I think Malone always has liked to have as like at least two ball handlers or guys that are like good passers on the floor at the same time.
Yeah, I mean he loves the multi point guard lineups for for a lot of reasons that you're saying. I just don't know if. So I think there's a trade off, right? When we're staggering Jamal, it also means those are minutes that Jamal's not playing with Jokic, which I think those are really valuable too. Like if you want to get minutes with Jamal off ball, I mean playing with Jokic is also a great time for that. At the same time, it's not terrible. It hasn't been terrible. They played great defense, and I think that's kind of their identity. I don't know if it's they're just kind of figuring it out offensively, and I can't say I hate that. But
I like Jamal's never been great on the stagger, but like I want him to be. You know what I mean? Like
I do
feel
too.
Like, I feel like the mindset of like Jamal staggering and floating a bench unit or MPJ
Mm-hmm.
would be awesome. We haven't, so for me, it's like I want Jamal to get there. MPJ also, in theory, would be great to like, hey, get your shots up with the bench unit. But like in reality, yeah, it's something that, hasn't really played out either. So, although last night he kind of did. But yeah, I mean, I agree with you where I'm like, results, not that good. But like in theory, I'm like, would love to see Jamal be able to float a bench unit.
Well, and I kind of want to tie this back into like a little bit of what I was saying earlier about the game that they lost, and what they tended to struggle with in that game is what I think Jamal struggles with in general with units like this is that it's about being able to get to the rim and draw fouls. I think is a lot more important than anything else when you're the first option on a unit, regardless of what the unit is. I think that's something you need to be able to do, and something that the bench right now struggles with. Partly because I don't know if Zeke is the best like pick and roll guy. He's working, he's doing his best, and he's growing in that way. But he's not like when Mason Plumlee and Monte Morris work together. It's not that Mason Plumlee is elite or that Monte Morris was elite, but they could do this individual things that came together that meant they could always get into the paint when they wanted to. So I want Jamal to be able to carry that bench unit. That would be nice. I just think his ability. I just think he needs to be able to get to the rim and draw fouls. And draw fouls, I think, is the big one. Like he needs to be able to embrace contact and not just go to his. He has a full bag of finesse moves to go to, but
he needs to grift. He needs to grift.
He needs to grift.
He's similar to like Kyrie, and he's like, I'm too true to the game. I avoid the contact because my bag is deep. It's like, dude, if you grift one foul per two fouls per bench unit, boom.
Just a little pinch of grift here and there. Yeah, I mean, Yoke had to learn to grift a little bit. Like, it is what it is. That's where the league is. Yeah, so if you want that efficiency offensively, I mean, I think that's what you need. But the defense has been consistently good, and I think that has just even that alone is enough to keep this bench like in a stable position where the games are pretty much they're even-ish. Sometimes they're winning a little bit, sometimes they're losing a little bit. They're even-ish for the most part, I feel like.
I think I saw the Nuggets are number 1 in half-court offense. Or defense, I mean, so far.
Yeah, so, I believe that.
Damn.
Zeke is doing a great job. Peyton Watson is doing a great job. Christian Brown is doing a great job. I mean, just those three on their own, I think I'm really happy with them. And,
I feel like the rest of the NBA still doesn't expect Peyton Watson to come out of nowhere and block their shot. I'm just like, what are you guys doing?
Yeah, they just think they just like, no, you can't do this here, and he just goes up and gets them, and it's nice.
It's fun to watch the bench. Watching young players is fun, and I was reflecting on this with some buddies. It's like, going into the year, you're kind of like, look, Calvin, you got a lot of dip on your chip. You're feeling it with the young guys, but hey, is this the right move? Should we have maybe tried to add one vet that we can rely on? And it's like, well, actually, it's way more fun to watch these young guys than watch friggin' Torrey Craig.
You can't always rely on vets either. I think sometimes you get a vet and then he's not what you think. I'm going to spend a lot.
It's going to be terrible some games, but I'm going to love it. It's going to be fun.
I don't think he's had a terrible game yet.
Yeah,
honestly, I'm glad that Watson's playing over Justin Holiday. Yeah,
me too. I don't know what Justin Holiday does well.
You want to look ahead of the week,
dude? Nothing.
Yeah, we can definitely do that. I mean, the last thing I wanted to say on it is that I think Michael Porter is someone who I think could. I don't want to say Michael Porter is better than Jamal Murray at this time, but what I think was nice about him leading those bench units is that because he's 6'10" and has that threat of his shot, so consistently, he's able to use that to leverage to get into the paint, to create for himself and others, and draw fouls, which I think is a big thing with leading bench units. I think just the floor that you could have, I think is a lot higher with them out here. But yeah, so this coming week, I mean, is it going to be as busy of a week? I hope not.
So we
I
got
don't
the
know.
Pelicans tomorrow night.
He,
Pelicans are 4-2, playing pretty well so far. One thing to look for is the Pelicans play hard, but I don't think they necessarily play all that smart yet. They give up a lot of offensive rebounds, and they don't have the best chemistry yet on offense. They definitely have the talent to beat the Nuggets, but you're not going to see a team that's as like connected and firing all cylinders. So I do think the Nuggets should get that game. One other important thing to look for is, Zion he's back to being a menace and aggressive, but when he misses, he kind of like hangs his head and tends to loaf a little bit in transition. So I definitely think this is a game, especially at altitude, where the Nuggets can run up and down and make Zion tired.
Yeah, the only thing I would know, obviously, fingers crossed. I don't think anything's come out on Jamal yet. So just like, fingers crossed he's not too hurt. But obviously, if he is out this week, that makes things tough. I love that Malone played Colin last night because he's, quote unquote, the vet over Pickett. I mean, I think that was cool. And I think Colin played pretty well. But if you're going to ask me who gives you a better chance on an NBA floor, I would probably lean Pickett due to size and offensive ability. But I will say Pickett in preseason looked a little thrown off by the 24-second shot clock instead of the 30-second shot clock. Takes him a little bit of time to get up the floor. So that being said, watching Colin guard Zach LaVine, I was kind of like, this, if Colin's on the floor against some starting level guards, it's going to be tough sledding for him.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I mean, the pace is always going to be an adjustment that NBA guards have to make. I think Jamal also was a guy who had to make that adjustment of like getting up the floor before, 18, 16,
He still
15
drives
seconds
me
left.
crazy, bro. I'm looking at the shot clock every possession like, 16, come on.
Yeah, I was trying to be nice, but it is important to like consider like, can you get into your first action before 12 seconds? Like that's nice. I'm expecting a win, just because. At the same time, I think Zion is going to be a guy who presents an interesting challenge to a lot of the Nuggets. Who, I'd like to see how they adjust to someone who doesn't really fit in the mold of traditional players. I think especially, Jokic's going to have the game that he's always going to have. I don't think Zion's going to bully him necessarily. But I think Zeke Naji is a guy whose game I'll be interested to see just because. Are they similar in size? Kinda, but kinda not. Like, they're similar in height. They're both supposed to be mobile. But obviously, Zion is coming from the other end of the spectrum in terms of just mass. So, Zeke's got his work cut out for him for however many minutes he's on the floor. Peter, anything you're looking for this game? Just looking into it, looking ahead of it, I should say.
I think Valanciunas has always played Jokic pretty well. Not that he slows him down, but he's able to score on his end. I think they're pretty familiar with each other. CJ McCollum obviously has done well against us in the past, but I do think that KCP is a better defender than we've been able to put on him in the past. So hopefully we can limit CJ. And then I guess Malone is going to have to put MPJ on Brandon Ingram, because you assume Gordon is going to guard Zion. So that's going to be interesting. MPJ did a good job on Luka. Brandon Ingram's a little longer, a little taller. I know we don't all think, Luka's a better player than Brandon Ingram. Like that's for a fact, hands down. But when a guy is a little taller, a little longer, it can be harder to bother his shots. So, he has a different type of game than Luka. So it's going to be interesting to see. Once Brandon Ingram catches the ball at the free throw line, it's basically over. He's either getting to the rack or he's getting his jumper off. So I kind of feel like that's the guy the Nuggets have really struggled to guard in the past. mostly because we tried to guard him with Paul Millsap, so it's like that just isn't going to work. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see.
Yeah, Ingram does
The
turn into
defense.
Kevin Durant. He does turn into Kevin Durant against the Denver Nuggets. Yeah. People are like, Brandon Ingram's not good. I'm like, what are you talking about? He's amazing.
Yeah. He's really good.
I think he just took a long time. I think guys just of that length, of that archetype, just take a long time to develop. Deuce, I know you have to head out. We're looking at, so any of the games you want to talk about over the next 2 days? Warriors, Rockets, Clippers? Anything you want to touch on before you leave?
I mean, I haven't gotten to watch the Warriors yet, but I see that they're either 4-1 or 5-1, and so they just won't die. That team just refuses to, like I was shook
Like
when
an
they won
NBA
a title.
cockroach.
Yeah, for me, we took the Suns, we took the Lakers out. I want to see this Warriors team, and I want to see them in the playoffs because I need to.
Yeah.
This Warriors
Call
team.
out.
So that's
I
what
love it.
I want to see this year, and so
For the vibes,
it'll be, I think and then people are right about our play front. I think the Warriors are a tough matchup for the Nuggets, just as they're a tough matchup for anyone because defending Steph Curry is very difficult. So I will be excited to watch that game. Houston game, I'm not going to sweat if I can't make that one, but I expect to win that.
You don't want to see Jeff Green again?
Oh, that's true. Actually, yeah, you're right. Okay, I will be there no matter what.
Deuce, that's been a real narrative though, right? Like Warriors fans have been like, "Oh, the Denver Nuggets didn't have to play the Warriors yet." I'm like, they lost to the Lakers, and we beat.
Yeah, you lost to the Lakers. You played 7 against the Kings when Sabonis was playing like Mason Plumlee. Like, yeah, dude.
And Fox got hurt his thumb.
That's what I need to see the Warriors. Like, I need to decrown them, and that would be extremely rewarding. It's time. The time's up. I'm sick of it.
That's right. It's like the changing of the guard, right? We need to pass the torch.
It's our league now.
I mean, we're gonna take the torch, I guess.
I mean, we kind of have it, but beating them in the playoffs, like, let's go. That's what I
like. Just to be clear, like a per my last email type of game.
Yeah. Yeah. So, all right, man. It was great to catch up with you guys. Everybody, thanks for
you too, Deuce.
Pleasure having you. We'll see you soon.
Take care.
Go Nuggets.
Mm-hmm.
Go Nuggets.
Okay. So, yeah, I mean, Warriors, Rockets, Clippers this week. I mean, I'm excited, like, in a similar way. I'm excited to play the Warriors just because there's just, like, it's kind of like when you and your dad are all of a sudden the same size. And you're like, okay, well, let's do this thing, But I don't know. It should be fun. I'm just interested to see what that Chris Paul. This is probably the smallest lineup Denver will see. I think for the most part, if they introduce that Chris Paul plus the sort of their core, that unit, and against a team that is kind of moving in the other direction, like just super tall and long and lengthy. How does that match up? Like, how does do we have to chase them around, or is it really going to be as devastating on the boards and in the inside as we might expect? Anything you're thinking about just going into that Golden State game? It's in Denver, by the way.
Well, I hope Jamal's healthy. I mean, because if he's not playing in that game, then I really won't have the proper takeaways from it. I mean, that's kind of like a must-win game for the Warriors if Jamal doesn't play, because then it's like, if we beat you without Jamal, we're really not going to be worried about him. So hopefully he'll be playing, because I believe that's a national TV game. But what's interesting, Ray? I believe that Clippers game later in the week is another in-season tournament game. So as big as the Warriors game is, for first place in the West and stuff, and just like measuring stick, that in-season tournament game is a little more important, if you're thinking about the in-season tournament. So I kind of hope, I think somebody pointed out that if Jamal misses the next 2, he'll have like 8 days off. So I don't know. I don't know what the level of hamstring strain is right now. I think he'll probably rest tomorrow night against the Pelicans. And then for Wednesday, who knows? But I'm sure he's going to want to play if he can go.
Yeah, I honestly, this is just the type of person I am. I'd rather you just get healthy. You know, I'm not really super pressed for Jamal to play as soon as he can. Especially between that and the hand issue he's been dealing with. Um, I'd rather you just play your best on the nights that you do play, especially because this team is as deep as it is. Michael Porter can cook. Denver has a lot of guards. Julian Strother can play. I think they'll be. I don't want to say I'm not even afraid of the Warriors, but I think it's still a winnable game, and I think a lot of the reasons that Denver would win that game are like the size, the physicality. I imagine they dominate on the inside, and I think that'll be true whether Jamal plays or not. That
I
Rockets
think
game,
that last
it's
thing
the
about the
Rockets.
Warriors, I think
Mm-hmm.
the interesting thing to look for there, Ray, is I am worried about the bench matchup. I mean, Chris Paul's a pro. Obviously, he knows what he's doing. The guy to watch out for is Jonathan Kuminga. Looks like he's starting to figure it out. I mean, we know what kind of crazy athlete he is. Chris Paul has really helped him, put him in good situations. And it's going to be interesting to see who guards him. Is he playing small ball center? Or no, I think usually Sarge is the center and he'll be the four. So I guess Peyton Watson's going to have to try to guard Kuminga. He's not as big as Naz Reid, who was able to just like bully Watson, but he's a little more quick and athletic. So I'm hoping that that their bench doesn't just kill the Nuggets and then Jokic has to like have a dominant game just to win by 2 or something. But we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I hopefully they can score a little bit also. Um, any thoughts about the Rockets, about the Jeff Green reunion type situation?
I'll be honest, I haven't watched much Rockets at all this year so far. I know they beat the Kings last night, so I mean they have NBA players. They got Van Vliet now and Dylan Brooks, and I mean, yeah, Jeff Green's still in the NBA, and Jalen Green's getting better. Like they have talent. The Rockets gave us some good games last year. They play hard. They're a young team, but they don't really play smart. So it'll be another game where the Nuggets will probably be able to score just fine. And if the Rockets are getting out and running and hitting threes, it'll be a close game. But if the Nuggets lock down in that one, I think it should be a win.
Yeah, I generally feel a similar way. I mean, if you can beat the Warriors, you should beat the Rockets. It's at home again. Oh no, no, this one is in Houston actually. So hopefully the nightlife doesn't. I don't know. Are the Nuggets a nightlife team? I'm not sure, but um, going into that Clippers game, I think that'll be really interesting because of it's just a really interesting relationship that I think Denver and the Los Angeles Clippers have between the 3-1 comeback, between Bones Highland, between just the amount of star power that they have, the way that team is built at this point in their pursuit of a title, I guess. I don't know what
Yeah.
the Clippers are pursuing. Um, I I'm just really excited for this one because I feel like it's just one of those. It's a style fight
Yeah,
that I think is really big.
for sure. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how Harden is meshing with those guys. Um, they got a lot of talent. I mean, I know I've been roasting the Clippers pretty much all summer, but they. It's weird to say this about a professional basketball team, Ray, but they look like they're trying this year. So far it does seem like they care about basketball and they're trying to win games.
I think they're the second best team in the West. Like I
Fair.
feel pretty comfortable. Yeah, saying that at this point. I mean,
You
they
like
have-
them more than Golden State so far.
I would say yeah. I mean, not to say that Golden State has a lot of continuity and they look very, clean and crisp in how they've done a lot of their work. But I think the Clippers have the ceiling that I think can contend with a team like the Nuggets, but also they've got some continuity. They're not totally reconstructed like I would say the Suns are, at least in their core players, and they have a bunch of different options, a bunch of different ways to approach a 5-man unit in terms of what do we need a lot of size, do we need a lot of defense, do we need ISO scoring, do you want matchups, you can do I think you have a lot of different options if you're coaching that team. So I like the Clippers to be kind of a foil for Denver this season, and a group of guys who see themselves as, hey, the Lakers were having conversations. The Clippers actually did things to actually get better. Like, I think they're really making an effort to try to contend with Denver.
Yeah. Do you want to spend any time laughing at the Suns, or is it a little too early to dance on their grave?
I'm going to chill for now.
All right. I mean, they don't have Beal back yet, but losing 2 games at home to the Spurs already, I thoroughly enjoyed that. But also Wembanyama. Wow. What? Oh, my God. 38 points.
I'm not going to blame them, only in the sense that I think a lot of teams can and will be surprised by Victor Wembanyama. I don't know how, because we've all been talking about him for over a year now, but I want to give that some time before I write them off, before I write off the Suns, or before I judge teams for losing to the Spurs, who I think any team coached by Pop is going to be better than you think. They're not going to let you. They're not going to beat themselves.
They're at least going to play the right way. Yeah.
Right. So you really have to do your due diligence in all facets to beat a team that is coached by Greg Popovich. So, I mean, I don't love the Suns, but I'm not gonna.
Fair.
I'm gonna wait.
It's early.
I'm gonna hold my fire.
So what about Memphis? Still winless. Are you concerned at all about them?
I don't know, because I don't know what is their aspiration. I'm not really sure if they have championship expectations, especially with the type of like turmoil that they're going through, with the injuries that they're going through. So I don't think they're done necessarily, but I don't think this is their year. If that's fair.
Yeah, they're having the year from hell, that's for sure.
There isn't a team who the Wizards are terrible. They should break it up. They should sell everybody. I'm telling you, I know this is my weekly stock report on the Wizards, but
Please don't invest any more time watching that product spray. You'll be happier.
I'm just adjacent to it. I can't. It's hard. I don't know what
you got friends in your life complaining.
I mean, sometimes they complain or they just don't talk about them. but I think
excited that they finally picked a direction though, Ray. They're finally like tanking. They're finally going to be bad on purpose and not just like go for the 8 seed.
Kind of like but they have too much. I mean, I think they have some direction, but they're not I don't think they're not tanking hard enough. But I think the veteran guys that they have, talking about not Bradley Beal, talking about Kyle Kuzma, talking about Jordan Poole, whether they're good or bad character guys or what have you, I just feel like they're not a good fit for the timeline that they're on, and they're kind of kidding themselves if they want to pretend that they should expect better. And I think a lot of those guys, they don't necessarily want to be there. They're not, and shout out to Wes Unseld Jr., he's trying to get them to play defense. And they're not, they're a team with no aspirations. And, Jordan Poole's a guy who, like, I'm just trying to do me at this point. And I respect that, but I think they need to, like, really clear the deck.
They didn't do, like, a full teardown. They did, like, a half-ass teardown where they got rid of Beal. But then, Kuzma's what? He's, like, 27, 28 or something? So it's, like, his timeline isn't really that of like, I'm ready to rebuild for 3 years. He's going to be 30 one day and look around and be like, we still suck. What am I doing here?
Right. So y'all should just get rid of those guys. Just usually when the Nuggets rebuilt, they only had the guys who wanted to be there. Otherwise, how do you really even establish that culture? How do you establish the buy-in?
Hard to rebuild when JJ Hickson's involved.
Is he involved? Oh, you're talking about back then.
Yeah.
Don't.
No, he's been out of the NBA for a long time. Don't worry.
I was like, is he like coaching or something? No.
Rashid was coaching, which is amazing.
I mean, I think he has a lot to say. I think he could advise, especially like if you told me like Zeke Naji was being coached by Rasheed Wallace, I'd be like, yeah, I like that.
Okay.
But it's more specific. It's a specific sort of coaching that I think he could provide that I think could be handy. But I think that's most of this week. We'll have the Pelicans back early next week. But do you want any predictions for this week as far as win loss? Do you want to stay off the prediction business?
Well, it's so hard to say because I don't know if Jamal is going to play. I kind of feel like between the Pels, Warriors, and Clippers, I think they're going to drop at least one. I think we beat the Rockets, but I'm confident. It looked not that bad without Jamal yesterday, so I feel like we can steal one against either the Clippers or the Warriors. I'm going to say 3-1, 2-2 at worst. We should still beat the Pelicans if we come out focused in the Rockets. So.
I'm gonna go 4-0. No back to
keep
backs.
going for it. All right.
I'm gonna keep going for it. No back to backs. I mean, I think they're better than all these teams, and they should play well. I mean, I think
you need a 4-0
somewhere-
week if you keep the dream of 70 wins alive, right?
yes, that's the real answer. You got me. Is that I need them to win like between like 8 out of 10 or 9 out of 10 games. They're 5-1 right now, so we got to keep that going.
Let's do it.
So, if you've listened this far, we really appreciate you for making it this deep into it. We shout out to Dole/Logan and Chill Duce. You can find them online at Revenge_Jokic and Chill Duce. You can find me online at Rayvone Hackshaw and Peter at Bucket Since '88, the podcast at Four Corner Pod. If you ever want to be on the live show, we go live. Usually, we're trying to stick to Sundays. Sometimes in the afternoon, but sometimes in the morning. So we're all, doing our best with that. But thanks for listening, and as always, go Nuggets. Professional stream ending. Let's go. Okay.